Hello everyone, and welcome to my guide for Eden's verse Iconoclasm Savage, also known as E7S. Now before we start the fight, in this case we will need to establish two lines of players, an east line and a west line. The tanks will need to be at the front of each line with the healers at the back of each line. This is much like we did for Leviathan Savage in E3S for freak wave positions. Once that's been established, you can start the fight, and as we've seen many times in the past, the first thing that's going to hit is raid-wide damage in the form of empty wave, and you'll see that come out in just a little bit here. As you can see, we're putting up plenty of mitigation for it. We're standing in the stars so we get healed because we wouldn't want to annoy our astrologian, of course. There's empty wave. And there we go. Now the next thing that's going to hit here is a tank buster. And this tank buster chooses a target at random based on whether or not the target has the tank role assigned to them. This means that threat does not matter for this tank buster. It will choose it unbiased to whether or not the target has top aggro. And because of that, you can really have both of your tanks keep their tank stance up for this entire first phase. The only thing that threat is important for here is who's getting autoed by the boss. You can see who's marked by this tether here. And this tank buster works much like many of the tank busters we've seen in recent past, where the first hit will put a debuff on the tank that increases the damage they take from the second hit of the attack. This can be handled one of two ways. First off, you can invuln it, but because it selects a target at random, you can't predict who's going to be able to invuln which one. So you may have the same tank targeted twice in a row, in which case you will need to handle it the way it is intended to be handled, which is for your other tank to step in front of that tether and make sure that they intercept the second hit of the tank buster so that they're the first one that gets hit to protect your tethered tank from dying. Both tanks will need some sort of personal mitigation in this case, but we'll get to that later in the fight. So the next thing that's going to happen here is portals, as we all love to have fun with portals. I'm going to stack up with the rest of the group for group healing. And then as portals are going out, you're going to see that the east side is always a blue portal in this case, and the west side is always a red portal in this case. And because of that, we use this time right here to determine which side is safe. So as these birds first spawn, you can see that the blue portal bird is the first one that came up. And because the blue portal bird is the first one that's going to hit, we know that the red portal is the first one that will be safe. We're keeping that in mind because once the portals pop up on the east side, we need to stand in front of the safe one in order to not get hit by the first attack once they come out of the east. You can't see the portals behind us, but I assure you the east one is always blue and the west one is always red. So blue gets hit first, then red, which means red is the first safe one, so we're stacking in front of red in the northeast corner. I'm going to rewind this for just a second to give you a better picture here. So right here we can see this square right here is the one that's going to have the red birds go through it. And this square right here is the one that's going to have the blue birds go through it. So we stack in front of the red portal on the northeast square, and we're just going to be moving back and forth between these two squares in order to dodge this entire mechanic. Alternatively, you can see chrome here is in the middle of the map. Okay. For standing in front of red portal, this square here is also safe. And for standing in front of blue portal, this square here is also safe. Keep that in mind. You can also stand in front of this square here, right there, for safety from red. Keep that in mind in case you're, say, a black mage that wants to keep uptime. You could put your ley lines right there and just go back and forth from those two squares for blue and red respectively if you wanted to stay in the center of the map. But in most cases the group is going to be on this northeastmost square and the second from the north square on the east side. Now what we're watching here for this first charge from the birds, this portal right here, like I said, will always be red. And we're watching which portal it's going to on the opposite end of the arena. Now, the opposite end of the arena, those portals are random for the first charge. It can either be red for this one, or it can be blue at this point. If you're having trouble seeing colors, you'll also notice that the red has a just a circle in the middle, whereas the blue has more angular overlapping squares in the middle. So keep that in mind if you're having trouble with colors. But because red is going into red, we know that after the first set of charges, so these birds go across and then these birds go across, after that set, we're going to move back into our northeast red square, because red will be the first one that's safe again. And then after the second set, blue birds charge and then red birds charge again. We're going to stay on the blue portal side in preparation for the third and final wave of birds. So same color, we're going to move and then stay. Opposite color, we're going to stay and then move. Okay, that's how we handle portal mechanics for the first time we get portals, the portals without color debuffs. So let's run through that. We move and then back. Now we're dodging, and now we stay. And final set of birds. I'm going to run through that one more time. Because it was the same color on the opposite end of the arena for this first set. Again, we have red going into red, red here, and red here. We're going to move and then stay. So we dodge the first set, and then move. We dodge the second set, and then stay. Then we dodge the final set. Again, had it been going into a blue portal on the opposite end, we would have stayed and then moved. But because it was going into a red portal, we moved, then stayed. Another way I can explain that is you could, if you wish to, watch which color the birds are going into on the opposite end every time. and that will tell you which color they're coming out of every time. Again, this one here is always red, and this one here is always blue. So because we have red going into red and blue going into blue, we know the first set is going to come out of blue again. Which means red is safe first. Because red's safe first, we go back in front of red just like we were before. But now we have them going into opposite colors. And because red was safe first and it's going into blue, we know that blue is going to be safe first next. So we move and we stay in front of blue. And this is the last set, so we don't even need to pay attention because we're just dodging the last set. I'm not sure there's any other way I can explain that. I know that can be a little bit confusing for beginning parties, but the easiest way for me to remember it personally is same color means move then stay, opposite color means stay then move. Now we get to the center of the arena because the boss, as you can see, is splitting the arena into 3 sections here. So we have the west section, the center section, and the east section. All of us need to be grouped up in the center because we're about to get marked up for teleportation debuffs as well as some tethers, and I'll go through that. You will need some extra mitigation here for the mechanic that's about to happen. So as we just saw, the boss cast away with thee right there, as you can see, and that's going to put a debuff on each of our party members that tells you which direction you're going to teleport in. So you can see we all got our teleportation debuffs here. And you can see on my debuff, I'm teleporting to the right. You can either look at the debuff itself, it'll tell you which direction it's facing in. I have right with thee. Or you can look at the telegraph on the ground. You can see my telegraph here is pointing to the right with these arrows here. I find the debuff to be easier to view myself, but just make sure you know which way you are teleporting and getting ready for that teleport. Now, for knowing where you're going to teleport to, it depends on a couple of things. DPS is all going to get marked with a tether from each of these birds here. So you can see we have the left birds here are tethered to a target there. The center birds here are tethered to a target here. The east birds here are tethered to chrome there. So at this point, the DPS need to watch for their tethers as well as what debuff they have on them for where they'll be teleporting to. Now, there are 2 ways to handle the tethered birds. The tether itself is telling you which direction the birds are going to charge in. And the goal here is to have them only hit the target they're teleported to. Tethered to, sorry. In order to accomplish that, what most groups will do is they'll pull these outside birds to their outside corner in order to have them go off the edge of the map in that way. So we want these birds to charge in that direction. So this tethered marker wants to make sure that they teleport over there in order to accomplish that. And Chrome himself will be teleporting over here in order to get these birds to charge off the map in that direction. These two center birds, you want to go directly down the center of the arena. So we want these ones charging this way, and we want these ones charging this way. So whoever's tethered to the two center ones will need to make sure that they teleport either north or south in order to keep those birds charging in that direction. Now, tanks and healers are going to teleport to their pre-designated side based on whether they were the east or west line. In my case, I was part of the west line, so I will be trying to teleport over here to the west with my healer. The tanks and healers need to teleport together because after the teleport happens, healers will be marked up for a stack marker that the tank needs to help soak. Now, it is very important that the outside birds get pulled as far to that corner of the arena as possible in order to not clip the tank and healer behind them. On that note, there are a couple different ways to handle this. What I've just shown you will often be displayed in Party Finder groups as this marker. They'll type that in their description as text, and that means that they're trying to do this for Betwixt Worlds, which is the name of this mechanic here. The other option is for the outside birds to be dragged directly through the center in a cross formation. This is known as cross strategy. The benefit to the cross formation, if you're trying to do this, is that it leaves a lot more space for your tanks and healers on the outside of the arena. The downside to it is that it leaves a lot less space in the center so that the people baiting the center birds have to go all the way to the north edge of the arena or all the way to the south edge of the arena. And that on the outside, the damage dealers need to go to the far southern end of the map, which means that melee cannot keep uptime while doing that teleportation. So I don't personally recommend this, and this is not the strategy that most party finders will use. Most of them will use that kind of T formation instead of the cross, but that is another option in case you run into it. So we're all going to execute our teleports. Again, we're watching our tethers and our debuffs. We teleport to our sides. The stack markers explode, and so do the birds. And we lost one of ours. I think he stepped into the rock candy, but it's not the end of the world. So what just happened there was another empty wave AoE, so we do get a lot of raid-wide damage back to back here. That's why for the Betwixt Worlds itself, you can see we have plenty of shields up. And it just got chewed through there. So we get back to center, we mitigate for the next raid-wide. And then immediately after that is going to be another tank buster. Now this is what I was talking about before, in that if the same tank gets chosen for this tank buster as was chosen for the first tank buster in the fight, that tank will need the other tank to run in front of them after the first hit of Unshadowed Shake here in order to help soak the second hit. And you will need to use some personal mitigation in that case. Alternatively, you could drag the tether behind the rest of the party. You could have the tethered tank stand here and the other tank stand in front of the party. And that will have the party try to help soak that second hit, which will make it so that your tanks don't need as much mitigation, but it's also a lot more damage going out that your healers really don't need to worry about. So just make sure that it's just the tank's getting hit by that second hit. There's no reason to have your party take extra damage. But Gigas has his invuln up, so he's just going to use it, and we don't have to run into that. Again, you can see that Gigas got targeted even though Gigas has no threat built up. So again, it chooses tanks at random. We all stacked in the center here because we're about to drop puddles. There they go. And then we drop a second set of puddles. Now, this is what we originally chose our freak wave-like positions for. Is for people to go to these corners here. Now, you want to stack on the... I'm sorry, you do not want to stack. You want to position yourself on the outer edge of the inside square. So you can see this is the inside square here, and I'm on the outer edge of it. That's because this set of birds is about to charge across the outer squares. I don't want to get hit by them, but I also want to leave a gap in the center of the arena for a mechanic that's going to happen subsequently here. So I position myself appropriately. We've dropped our puddles. I position myself here a little closer to the rest of my west side group so that it's easier for the healer to get some heals off. And then, as you can see, the boss is once again casting away with these. So we're going to deal with some teleports in a second here. So again, check your debuffs. Mine is heading to the left, so I have left with thee, and that's also indicated by the telegraph on the arena here. So watch your debuff and get ready to teleport. As far as where you're teleporting to, we're going to back up for a second here so we can get a good look at the entire arena. The goal here is for all of your DPS to be in the center of the arena when this resolves. One of your tanks to be at the very north edge, one of your tanks to be between the other tank and the damage dealers, one of your healers to be between the damage dealers and your other healer, and finally one of your healers at the very south edge of the arena. This is because your tanks and healers are going to be marked with a point blank AoE, whereas one of your damage dealers is going to be marked up with a stack marker that the other DPS need to help soak. That's really the only way to set up this positioning, so just try to execute that as best you can. So we're gonna go back to that teleport, and I'm gonna show you how it plays in action. And as you can see, I'm teleporting to the north edge here. My other tank is teleporting in between myself and the damage dealers, and the damage dealers are all stacking up in the center. And beautiful position. Now the next phase here is adds. There's going to be one that spawns on the west and one that spawns on the east side of the arena. The east and west adds are known as idolatry here. And then there's a third add known as blasphemy. Now the blasphemy add moves on its own. It cannot be tanked. It is going to rotate around the arena in either a clockwise or counterclockwise fashion. And because we don't know what direction it's going to go in right away, you're going to see me move my add slightly to the south here, so that no matter which direction it goes in, it's not going to get too close to my add. Because if either the blasphemy and one of the idolatries or both of the idolatries get too close together, they will tether each other and they'll become infinitely harder to kill. So you can't let them get too close, at any time. Now they've started rotating clockwise, counterclockwise. Sorry, the blasphemy has started moving counterclockwise, and because of that, I need to start moving counterclockwise as well, which you just saw me do. The first thing that's going to happen here is there's going to be 3 lasers that shoot out from the idolatry toward random damage dealers. And we need to dodge those, and then there's going to be a stack marker in each group that each group needs to stack up for to help soak damage. So we dodge lasers, and we stack. And the next thing that's going to happen is the idolatries both need to be interrupted. So make sure you're watching for that, this Advent of Light cast. That Advent of Light is just a enrage-like mechanic. It'll just kill everyone if it goes off, so really make sure it doesn't go off. Now we're going to dodge another set of lasers, then stack. Now, one thing I want to point out with these lasers is because they are targeting the damage dealers, your damage dealers can bait them. So ideally you want, if you're at the opposite end of the arena from the opposite side of the arena from the blasphemy, you want your damage dealers to bait the lasers behind your ad so that everyone can stack up in front of it. Because immediately after we dodge lasers, we all need to stack right away. So if people dodge in different directions, they're not going to be stacked up and someone's going to die. So we bait all the lasers in an intuitive fashion to make it easy for everyone to dodge and stack together. If we were going the other direction and instead we had the blasphemy ad somewhere down here and it was shooting its lasers at us from the northern portion of the map, we would instead want to bait the lasers over here to the inside of the arena so that we could dodge over here to the outside of the arena. The idea here is you want everyone to dodge intuitively in a way that they're still staying near the ad for uptime, and everyone stays stacked together. Just bait then dodge. There we go, beautifully baited. Next thing that's going to happen is a donut mechanic called Strength in Numbers, and as Strength in Numbers is going out, we're also marked for the Away with Thee cast. You can see I have Forward with Thee. The goal with this Away with Thee cast is for everyone to teleport forward in the direction that their ad is rotating in. So because we're going counterclockwise, if I can resume the video a little bit here, we want everyone to teleport over in this direction, because you can see we already have a stack up marker. That stack up marker is going to go off immediately after we teleport, so we all have to teleport to the same location, and we need to teleport forward so that the blasphemy doesn't catch up with us while we're teleporting. So we're all teleporting over there. Make sure you watch your debuff and you position yourself appropriately to accomplish that. We all move forward. We're stacked up. We soak the damage just fine. Next, we're going to have Strength in Numbers again, but this has 2 possible results. So either your idolatry ad could be rotating in a upright oval, or it could be rotating in a horizontal oval. If it's rotating upright, kind of a vertical oval, that means that it's going to do the donut version of the strength in numbers, and you need to stay within its hitbox. If it's doing this sort of horizontal oval, that means it's going to do a point blank damage, and you need to get away from it. So ours, as you can see, has started rotating horizontally. So it's going to do a point blank. So you're going to see us all run toward the blasphemy ad in order to get away from it. Blasphemy is also going to shoot out lasers at this point, but we know that near the blasphemy is going to be safe because the other ad, because ours is doing a point blank damage, the other one we know is going to do the donut mechanic. So it's going to have some dangerous area around it as well, and unless you can make it to the other ad's hitbox in time for the mechanic to go off, it's safer typically to run toward blasphemy that we know isn't going to have any sort of AoE near it, just the lasers that you need to dodge. For uptime, you may wish to run to the other idolatry to get some damage in on it while this strength in numbers cast is going off, but that also might offset the health pool of your two ads, so that's something to watch carefully. The safest bet is typically to run toward blasphemy. You see us dodge lasers and run towards blasphemy there. Point blank goes out, and then we all get back to our ad. There's another stack up marker. You need to keep the mob in place while you resolve this stack up, and then we move it immediately after as we're moving into the final mechanic here. Now we can see right here that they already killed their ad, and this explosion cast has started because the other ad is already dead. This is why you can't just focus all damage on one of the ads. They have to die at relatively the same time, because the one remaining alive will start its explosion cast, which is its enrage, immediately as the other one dies. They were about to start casting explosion anyway, both of them, because they both start doing so as soon as the blasphemy ad reaches the north portion of the map right here where it started. So it does one full rotation, and then that's it for ad phase. But you have to kill these idolatries before they finish their explosion, or everyone's dead. So we're going to finish it off here, and then we get on blasphemy. Blasphemy is going to start doing 5 raid-wide hits back to back, so I put up my reprisal for that. And after those 5 raid-wide hits, it starts casting its own explosion. So keep an eye out for that. Make sure you're putting out enough damage to kill it beforehand. And then we're going to need plenty of mitigation here because the boss does its ultimate raid-wide. You can see both paladins did Passage of Arms back to back. This allows them to gain the benefit from each other's Passage of Arms, while also giving Passage of Arms to each of the raid members. We also put up Mantra, Succor from our Scholar, and some Astrologian shielding as well. We got plenty of mitigation. And there it is. You can see even with all of that, all of our damage dealers still got hit down to half their health pool. Now Unjoined Aspect is going out. You need to watch the color of your debuff. You can see that both the tanks are marked for opposite colors, and both the healers are marked for opposite colors. And then each of the damage dealers, there's 2 of each for them. So we got 2 black damage dealers and 2 white damage dealers. That's gonna be important in a second here. The first reason that's important is because we're about to see some birds that pop up. black and white birds. And you need to get in front of the opposite color birds from your debuff and line up for this line AoE. Now, this tether here will mark whoever is closest to the outside birds when that tether pops up. So it doesn't necessarily have to be your tank that's marked for it, but for the line AoE, the tank does need to be the furthest north in the line so that they take the brunt of the damage from it. Because the tether marks whoever is closest to the ad, it is possible for one person to be the closest target to both outside edges, in which case they will get marked for both tethers, and that's probably going to screw you up and likely kill everyone. So make sure that your tanks are splitting to their sides plenty ahead of time so that that doesn't happen. But line up, make sure your tanks are furthest one north, and mitigate appropriately for the line AoE here. And then everyone's got to get back to center. Now there's going to be some birds that spawn. There's going to be birds at every cardinal side of the arena, with the north birds being opposite color of the east birds, and the south birds being opposite color of the west birds. Because of that, we typically put our tanks north and east, with healers south and west. But it's also possible for you to put tanks north and west with healers south and east. Just make sure that they're on separate corners. With this setup, the idea here is that you want your birds to all go in lines that only hit one target each. So as you can see, we put our A marker here. That's where we want one of our tanks. We want another tank over here in the middle of that row so that his birds go across that row. We got this first tank's birds going across this row. We want one healer down here in kind of the southeast area so that his birds are going across this row. And we want our final healer over here in kind of the southwest corner so that his birds are going across this row. Again, they don't go to the far southwest corner, they just go to the southernmost, the slightly south of the west side. And again, that pattern follows all the way around. You could shift this one square over. You would do that if you had tanks north and west and healers south and east. You would put a tank here, a tank here, a healer here, and a healer here. But either way, it doesn't matter as long as you just have one person getting hit by each charge. Now you can see I'm got the white debuff here, and I went toward my black birds, and I'm taking that tether to the B marker here in the center of this row. You do want to make sure you're as centralized as possible so that you don't clip anyone. But we can also see right here that a tower has spawned to my left, a black tower here. So DPS are taking care of the towers, and typically you want to set anchors so that the DPS know where they're going. You want a melee anchor and a ranged anchor. What I mean by that is we've set Toka as our melee anchor here, and so he is going north no matter what. No matter what debuff he has, he's going north, because there's going to be opposite color towers on the north side and opposite color towers on the east side. There will always be one black on one and one white on north and south, sorry. But if Toka and Juice were the same color, one of the two of them would have to go south. They can't both go north in that instance because there's opposite color towers on the north side, and them being the same color wouldn't allow them to resolve that. So you set 2 floaters as well as 2 anchors in order to adjust in that situation. Because both our melee are opposite colors, they can both go north in this case, as they both have a north tower they can go to. Toka is going to go to the northwest, and Juice is going to go to the northeast, because the northwest is guaranteed to be a white tower here, because there's always opposite colors on the north and opposite colors on the south. You also want to set a ranged anchor. In our case, I do believe it's chrome, so that they're going south no matter what, and a ranged floater that will go south unless they're the same color as their other ranged partner. I hope that makes sense for everyone. So you can see Juice went to the black tower with his white debuff, and we resolved the mechanic. Now we all stack up in the center, and we still have a little bit left on our debuff here, and just like we did the first time, we're lining up on our sides with the tanks forward and personal mitigation. Just like that. Now we come back to center. There's going to be another set of colors that go out. And this time, as you can see, all the tanks and healers are marked as the same color, and all the damage dealers are marked as the same color. It's going to happen that way every time. And now we're doing color portals. Again, the blue portal will always be in the east portion here, and the red portal will always be in the west portion here. So I'm going to pause that. Let's rewind a little bit. So we got blue portal here, we got red portal here, and we're watching for which birds go to what portal. There. Now, what you're keeping in mind here is that you also have a debuff. You still have a colored debuff. You want to get in front of the opposite color as your debuff, but you want to watch which birds are going into this are the same color as your debuff. So you're going to see me get in front of the black birds here, but as I get in front of the black birds, I'm keeping in mind that the white birds are going into the blue portal, which is going to be my safe portal on the east side, because as soon as I get in front of the black birds and it hits me, that's going to mark me as a black debuff, and I will need to be in front of the white birds for the next charge. So you're getting in front of the opposite color as your debuff, you're watching the birds that are the same color as your debuff. And again, I'm going in front of blue because I know that's where the white birds are coming out of. And just like we did with the first set of portals, on the opposite end, we're trying to keep an eye on what portals are being shot into from the east side. So we know that blue here is shooting into blue on the opposite end, and red, of course, is shooting into red. And because they are the same color, we are going to need to swap our position after every charge. So the first charge is going to hit. We already know we're safe from that. After the first charge hits, we are going to run to center. Everyone runs to center to drop puddles in the center. And then we're going to swap every time. And again, we're only swapping because it is the same color on the opposite side as it was on the east side. So the first set of birds hits. We go to center. We drop our puddles. And we swap. Now, you can see that we have AoEs around all of our party members. It does not hurt too much if you get hit by the same color AoE as your debuff. What will hurt is if you get hit by the opposite color. So if a white debuff person gets hit by a black personal AoE from one of our other party members, that'll kill someone. Because of that, we can all stack together with our same color partners, which is what we're going to do here. Alternatively, you could have the west group go to the west side. They're just watching the east portals to know which platform is safe. And the east group go to the east side with your tanks and healers on the same platform for each side. So in our case, the tanks and healers are on the north platform. The DPS are on the slightly more southern platform. That will allow you to spread out more so that you only get hit by your own AoE for each person. But because the damage from the same color AoE is very manageable, we typically in Party Finder groups will elect everyone stacked together so that we can just mitigate through the damage and heal it up. So again, we started in front of blue portal, we went to the center, we dropped our puddles, we switched to the opposite platform because it was the same color portal on the west side as the east side. And we're mitigating through this AoE damage here. After that AoE damage goes out, we're going to swap one last time. So again, we're swapping. For the final set of birds. Good. Now, had we back here had we had the opposite color, like let's say blue was going into red on the opposite end, let's say that portal right there was a red portal, then we would come back to the same platform every time. Tanks and healers in our case would be staying on this platform for every single set of bird charge if it were the opposite color portal that the red portal was, the blue portal here was shooting into, if blue was shooting into a red. But because they're the same color, we swap every time. So, same color, get hit by birds, we run to center, drop our puddles, swap, because it was the same color, mitigate, AoE goes off, we swap again, and that's it, mechanic resolved. And again, we were swapping every time because it was same color on the opposite end. Now, the next thing that's going to happen here is another empty wave raid-wide. Mitigate through that. And then we're going to have one final tank buster. Now, most of the time, you're going to be able to invuln this final tank buster. The only scenario where you cannot invuln this final tank buster is if you had a paladin that got marked for both the second and final tank buster. Hollowed ground will not be up in time if that is the case. But for every other occasion, you will have invuln available here. I also want you to keep an eye on limit break here because we're almost full. So immediately after that tank buster, you can typically pop your melee limit break, and then get another like 1 or 2 bar toward the end, probably just a 1 bar limit break toward the end. So this is a knockback AoE here. You cannot knockback immunity this, so we're all stacked together on the northeast corner. We're stacked together because this does do a decent chunk of damage that we've all built up some shields for. And you can see I'm also running Passage of Arms. Just make sure you're pretty close to that knockback marker, as again you cannot knockback immunity. After that, tanks are going to head to the south end of the map, and then the damage dealers and healers are going to choose where they head based on what color they get marked with this unjoined aspect here. Anyone who gets marked with the black debuff will be heading to the northeast portion of the map, and anyone who gets marked with the white debuff will be heading to the northwest portion of the map. And you can see both tanks got opposite colors, so one is white and the other is black. That's because we're about to soak some orbs. I'll show you what the orbs look like. There they are. And you need to soak the orb with the opposite color that the orb has. So this first one needs to be soaked by the white debuffed tank, and the other tank needs to make sure that they are as far away from the white debuff tank as possible, because when this orb explodes, it changes the color of whoever it hits to its color. So it would make both of us black in that case. That's particularly dangerous for the damage dealers and healers, as they do not want all of their group members to get marked with the opposite color as soon as they go into it. But just keep in mind, you want to keep your party members separate so that only one person gets hit by each orb at a time. So there's the explosion. Both tanks are marked as black now. And you can see, since I took the first one, I'm letting Gigas take the next one. He's going to pop that white up orb there and get marked as white. And I'm going to take the next one after him. He's making sure he's far enough back that he doesn't get clipped by it when I pop my explosion. Just like that. And then we're all going to stack at the north end of the map. I'm going to run through that one more time, and this time we're going to focus on one of the DPS and healer groups and watch how they handle it. So we get knocked back, we go to our sides. DPS and healers get marked for their debuff. You can see that Mayvi, Toka, and Juice all have the white debuff, so they're going to be in this northwest portion here. Now, typically how party finders will handle this orb popping, you can do it in whichever order you like, but most party finders will have the healer pop the first one, the melee pop the second one, and the ranged pop the last one. And this again is where your anchors come into play, because as you can see, we have both melee marked as the same marker. So because of that, the melee anchor is popping the second orb, because they're the quote-unquote melee in this case, and the melee flex becomes a quote-unquote ranged in this case, meaning they're popping the final orb of their group. So you can see May's already popped his first orb. He's changed his color to black. The other healer has changed his color to white. So healers have already popped. You can see Toka here has moved to the front of his party because he wants to be the one to pop the next orb. and his two party members have made sure that they're far enough back that they're not going to get hit by whatever orb Toka pops. So there's the black orb that popped up that Toka's going to pop right there. Okay. And Juice moves to the front of the pack so that he can pop the next one. There's the black orb that Juice is going to pop, and boom, he's popped it. And we've gone all the way around. Now, most party finder groups at this point, I want to point out one thing. This right here is the final set of line AoEs that goes out from the tornado. This right here. The reason I'm pointing that out is because that is what determines where all of the party ends up. And as you can see, the tanks are mostly north, slightly west. The healers, the group that started out as black and is now white, is mostly south, slightly west. And the group that started out white and is now black is mostly east. So we're all over the map, right? So it doesn't matter too much whether you go north and south based on this positioning here. But what will matter is that after we get through this next set of raid wides, the DPS and healers will need to split up northwest and northeast again. And because of that, I typically make the entire group stack up at the north side in order to properly mitigate the raid wides that we're about to take here. But at this point, most party finder groups will have everyone stack up south for some arbitrary reason. I'm just letting you know this is how things tend to happen. You do want to stay stacked up, whether you do so south or east or west or whatever the hell, doesn't really matter. I am recommending you do so at the north end of the map. Alright, so threefold grace is the circles that we have on the floor here. As you can see, they are our black and white colors that we've been getting used to. And as you can imagine, you need to be standing in the opposite color of your debuff. So watch your color, make sure you're standing in the right puddle, and handle the mechanic accordingly. Remember that each one does change your color, so you may need to swap accordingly. And there's two back-to-back empty waves, so mitigate through those. And then the tanks are going to go to the south end of the arena again, while the DPS and healers are going to split northeast and northwest. Again, they're popping orbs in the order of healer, then melee, then ranged. Doesn't matter too much, that's just what Party Finder tends to do. Gigas is going to pop his orb next, because I just popped one. And we're stacking north again. Remember to keep watching your color, make sure you're standing in the opposite colored puddle. And then there's two more empty waves here. There is the potential that you will have two other empty waves after this set of two. But depending on your DPS, the boss may break his cast of empty wave to instead cast Enrage. It depends on what percent he's at when he starts casting the second set of empty waves. But that's the fight. You can potentially have 2 more empty waves, and then there will be a final empty wave Enrage. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this has been informative for you. If you like what you see, go ahead and subscribe for more Final Fantasy XIV raid guides in the future. I also stream endgame content fairly regularly. I will include a link to my Twitch channel in the description. And I've included a full version of our encounter with callouts for your viewing pleasure. Thank you and goodbye.
Let's do a fancy sideways animation. Okay.
Here we go.
Gotta look fly as fuck whenever you do stuff.
That's exactly what it is.
First up, raid one. Next is tank cluster. Salvata, hologram. Next is portals. Red is going to be safe first. Head northeast and put a red. Move. Stay. Center, rock in. Check your debuff and your filter. Very teleport.
Oh my god.
Next is raid one. Next is tank cluster. It's on Gigas. Yeah.
She.
Always happens when I get back. Okay.
Take your corner. Check your debuff. Ready to teleport. Next is add. Counterclockwise. Dodge lasers, then stack. Next is interrupt. Dodge lasers, then stack. Next is donut. Check the debuff. Ready to teleport. Next is strength in numbers. Stack. Next is explosion. Check your color. Two sides, line up. Center. Check the birds. Position. Center. Get to your sides, line up. Center. Check your colors. White is coming out of blue, black is coming out of red. In front of your colors, each side. We're going to alternate every time. Center, then alternate. Ooh. Mitigate. Blue. Center, we're going to have a raid wide next. Atlas, I have hollow ground. Northeast corner. Check your colors. Move forward, Gigas.
Anchors.
Shoulder tackle will never not be small.
North side. Check your colors. Two raid lines. Got reprisal. Watch for colors. Get it, Gigas. Yeah. Stay back, Gigas. Your turn next, Gigas.
When you're next.
I got the next one.
North side. Hit that LB. Oh, after the colors.
I'll deal with it after all the buffs. I'll do it at enrage.
Check your color.
Trick attack coming up in 13. That'll be the last one.
Rise.
Trick attack in 3. Trick coming out.
Paddling the next empty wave.
Just hit it.
This is raid.
This.
This is raid.
Until I see my
Using
book, I'll
LB,
give.
because I'm out of everything. So